Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new edition of The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're jumping headfirst into something that is just, well, it's fundamentally fascinating. We're talking about the art of world building. Whether you're reading a novel, watching a massive blockbuster, playing a video game, or even just interacting with a little desktop robot, you are experiencing a constructed reality. So today, we're going to break down the grand mechanics of how creators engineer these realities, and we're going to see how it spans across some incredibly different mediums. So, I want you to think about this for a second. What on earth connects a post-apocalyptic wasteland, a cinematic teal and orange movie scene, and a tiny, glitching robot? It kind of sounds like the setup to a really strange joke, right? But I promise you, there is a profound, undeniable thread that ties all of these together. Today, we're going on a bit of a journey. We're starting at the absolute macro level, literally the end of human civilization itself, and we're going to zoom all the way down to a microscopic single-pixel glitch on a digital display. To make sense of all this, here's our roadmap. Number 1, narrating the apocalypse. 2, crafting the visual atmosphere. 3, synthesizing ambient soundscapes. And 4, programming character personality. By the end of this explainer, you're going to see exactly how these totally different disciplines weave together into a cohesive masterclass on building a believable world entirely from scratch. Let's get right into it.
Part 1. Narrating the Apocalypse. The Foundations of Survival and Hope.
Our first discipline looks at the highest macro-level imaginable literature. Specifically, how writers construct brand new societies after the literal end of the world. We're talking about post-apocalyptic fiction, which really took off after all those nuclear anxieties of the 20th century. Think about it. When the world is just wiped clean by a pandemic or some ecological collapse, how do you actually build a new narrative reality out of the ashes? Well, the answer lies in a very stark contrast. You see, post-apocalyptic fiction uses this dynamic tension between hopelessness and hope as the actual engine for its world building. Hopelessness represents despair, isolation, and ultimately extinction. It's the default setting of the wasteland. But hope is the active force. It drives reconstruction, social connection, and the sheer probability of a future. In these stories, hope is absolutely not just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It is the vital, structural pillar that lets a new society stand up. Okay, let's dive into this and ground the concept with a couple of brilliant examples from academic analysis. Take David Brin's novel The Postman. The world has completely collapsed from war, famine, climate change, the whole shebang. The main character, Gordon Krantz, ends up finding this old U.S. Postal Service uniform. Now, by simply putting it on and delivering a few old letters, he artificially constructs a sense of hope. He literally convinces desperate people that a restored United States government actually exists out there somewhere. It's incredible. We see something very similar in Jose Saramago's Blindness. A devastating, totally unexplained white blindness sweeps the city and destroys all societal ethics. But one single woman, the doctor's wife, keeps her sight. She becomes the central leader. She is the sole anchor of hope and human connection in this quarantine mental hospital, literally engineering a future from total chaos. Which actually brings us to this foundational philosophical concept. The philosopher Kierkegaard hit the nail on the head when he said, "In the absence of probability, every moment in human life will be hopeless." To build a world that survives a dark age, a creator has to engineer a tangible probability that things can be realized. Gordon Krantz's mailbag wasn't just old fabric, right? It was a calculated mechanism of probability. It was proof that civilization could return.
All right, moving on to Part 2. Crafting the Visual Atmosphere. Building worlds from scratch.
So, the crucial point is, just like a writer uses the abstract concept of hope to build a narrative society, a visual artist uses color, light, and shadow to construct a physical reality. When digital artists build a 2D world, let's say they're working in Adobe After Effects, they follow a very strict hierarchy. It's like a giant puzzle. You start with the absolute basics, solid dark blues for the sky, maybe a basic shape for the land. Then you establish a central object, like a moon, because that dictates your light source. Next, you add atmospheric elements, like clouds with drop shadows to give it depth. You throw on a vignette to blend the edges nicely. But then, and this is the real secret ingredient, they add an adjustment layer of exactly 12% digital noise. By injecting this artificial, chaotic static into a perfectly clean digital file, the world paradoxically feels infinitely more real. It gets this organic grit that our brains immediately accept as natural. And when we talk about coloring that world, we absolutely have to talk about the most dominant lighting trend in modern filmmaking. I'm sure you've noticed it.
the teal and orange color scheme. This is no accident. Teal and orange sit exactly opposite each other on the color wheel, which means pairing them produces maximum visual contrast. Because human skin naturally falls into that orange spectrum, colorists will push orange into the midtones to make the actors really pop, and then they inject teal into the shadows to push the background away. You are literally engineering three-dimensional depth and separating your subject from the environment without having to set up a single extra physical light on set. But a quick word of warning here. As we saw with movies like Transformers 2, oversaturating this technique can totally destroy a film's aesthetic. World building always requires restraint.
Let's jump into part 3, synthesizing ambient soundscapes, designing the air we breathe.
Okay, so we've painted the sky, we've set the lights, but now we have to think about the invisible space around our subjects, the air itself. When sound designers need to create an ambient bed, like a crackling fire, soothing wind, or heavy rain, they often don't even use microphones to record the real world. No, they synthesize it. And there is just a beautiful irony here. The most organic, natural sounds in a world are actually born from pure, mathematical digital noise. A sweeping wind sound, that's often just white noise run through a low-pass filter with a high resonance. Falling rain can be generated using a graphical programming environment called Pure Data. And what about a massive, pulsing atmospheric drone? That can literally be created by taking two basic sine waves and just slightly offsetting their frequencies so they rhythmically beat against each other.
The mechanical pipeline to actually achieve this is fascinating. You start with static, lifeless signals, just pure white noise or a basic sine wave. Then you apply your self-oscillating filters to shape the tone. But if you want it to feel alive, you have to introduce evolution over time. Using hardware like the Electron Digitact, sound designers will use low-frequency oscillators, or LFOs, and probability sequencing to randomly modulate the volume, the pitch, and the panning. Just like that 12% digital noise we added to our visual landscape earlier, adding programmed probability to audio creates a generative soundscape that never repeats the exact same way twice. It breathes. It feels incredibly real.
Finally, part 4, programming character personality, bringing a digital eye to life.
So we have constructed the society, we've painted the shadows, and we've synthesized the wind. Now let's zoom in to the final micro level. How do we place an individual character inside this reality and actually make us care about them? Well, to do this, we're looking at the world of DIY robotics. The YouTube channel Flux Garage set out to build a custom robot with a personality inspired by pop culture icons. Think WALL-E or Cosmo. Now, the entire illusion of life here rests on a tiny, cheap OLED screen displaying a pair of monochrome eyes. By programming a dedicated mood library, the creator coded very specific, fluid emotional states: tired, angry, happy, and confused. There's even a curious mode, where the outer eye literally enlarges as the robot looks away, as if it's searching the room for something. But the magic isn't just in the shapes themselves. It's the fact that all the transitions between these states are perfectly tweened and animated. It's literal, fluid empathy, coded right in C++.
Now, what's really interesting here is this fascinating happy accident that emerged during the process. When they were rendering these really fast eye movements on cheap, low-fidelity OLED displays, the hardware simply couldn't keep up. It resulted in these subtle, jagged visual glitches. But instead of rewriting the code to smooth it out, the creator completely leaned in, stating, "The glitch is a feature, and it's not a bug." In the context of this scrappy little desktop robot, a piece of hardware struggling to process information actually enhances its organic underdog charm. It makes it feel more real.
And this brilliantly illustrates our entire journey today. The creator took that abstract concept of the glitch and completely weaponized it for character building. By programming a macro animation that applies a literal 1-pixel alternating offset to the eyes, we're talking about rapidly shifting the image back and forth by a microscopic margin. The static, tired eyes suddenly look like the robot is shivering from the cold or maybe trembling in fear. A calculated 1-pixel flaw becomes the absolute ultimate tool for manipulating human empathy.
And honestly, that is the true art of world building. From a desperate postman engineering societal hope out of an old uniform, to colorists pushing teal and orange pixels, to audio engineers turning white noise into weather, all the way down to a 1-pixel offset bringing a digital soul to life, it is all the exact same process. It's taking the raw, chaotic static of the universe and deliberately applying structure, probability, and just a little bit of grit to create a reality that we can truly believe in. So I want to leave you with this thought today. If we possess the tools to engineer hope, light, sound, and personality entirely from scratch, what reality will you build next? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep building, and I will see you next time.